Hey everybody, going to do a quick video here on my Yes CD collection. I grew up listening to Yes just on the radio, and my dad had an album or two, and after a while I just kind of got sick of Yes because I just heard it so much, and I don't know what it was, but I was not into progressive rock until probably my 90s, and then I started to embrace it again and started to appreciate it. For whatever reason, I just went through a period in the 80s in my youth and high school and for part of college where I just wanted nothing to do with it. And so when I got back into Yes, I got back into Yes big time. And I came to realize just how fantastic their albums were. And so I started to build my Yes collection both on vinyl and CD. And I've got a little more on CD than I do on vinyl, although it's by no means a complete collection, but I will show you what I have. This is starting with the first Yes CD, the self-titled debut. And my favorite stuff on here is probably Yesterday and Today, Looking Around. And they do a cover of Every Little Thing, which to my knowledge is the only popular band that's ever covered that song. I'm not aware of any other covers, but you know, it doesn't sound anything like the original version, as you might expect, considering that it is Yes, but it's still an enjoyable track, I think. One of my favorite Beatles covers, perhaps. This is the second Yes album, Time and a Word, and this is part of the Yes Remastered series. And this is what the American cover looked like, if you've ever seen that on vinyl in America. And they have the classic Atlantic label reprinted on the CD. Maybe one of my favorite Yes albums is the Yes album. Some people might actually think this is Yes's first album, but it is not. This one has so many great classics on it, although my favorite is, in fact, might be my favorite Yes track of all time, is Starship Trooper. Just such a fantastic track. Also, I've seen All Good People. Obviously, Yours Is No Disgrace is a great album, and Perpetual Change is also fantastic. And another classic, Fragile. This is one of the original remastered CDs. Doesn't have any bonus tracks on it. But radio staples growing up were Long Distance Runaround and Roundabout, and I think those both tracks are fantastic. I don't know why. Again, I went through a period where I just didn't want to listen to it, and just even the little weird pieces, it's almost like each band member has a showcase on here. There's Cans and Brahms, which is a keyboard piece. You know, We Have Heaven, which is kind of a John Anderson vocal piece. 5% for Nothing is great. South Side of the Sky is just a fantastic. It's one of the, if I had to do like a deep cut or most, you know, underappreciated Yes songs, I think South Side of the Sky would definitely be up there. You know, Heart of the Sunrise is also fantastic. And then a contender definitely for my favorite Yes album. If I had to rank them today, this would probably be number one. Just fantastic. The title track with all the different suites is amazing. And You and I is a fantastic track, one of the greatest tracks, one of the greatest recordings in progressive rock. This is another one of the remastered. Got this through the BMG Music Club back in the day. And this, I think, is a polarizing album, at least among critics. I think it's fantastic. If you're not familiar with this album, it's something that will have to grow on you. You're going to need to spend some time with it just because it's so long, it's so sprawling. You know, it's a double album on vinyl, and there's just so much music. Each track is almost like 18 minutes long. But my favorite are the first two tracks, and just very moved by each of them. And it wasn't something, you know, first time I listened to it, I had a difficult time just processing everything because it's very different than even what Yes had done before. But it's very worthwhile if you have the time and you invest some time in this, I think you'll find that it's very worthwhile, and it's one of Yess's greatest albums. This is a expanded set. It's got some bonus tracks on it, and it is a double disc. And the bonus tracks are Dance of the Dawn, there's a studio run through, and then there's also Giants Under the Sun, a studio run through. And then the first Yes live album, which was a triple vinyl album. This is a 2 CD release. And Yesterday's, which compiled tracks from their first 2 albums, along with the, I think it was a single or a one-off track, America, which is a cover of the Simon and Garfunkel classic song. And I love the Roger Dean artwork on here also. Roger Dean never disappointed with any of his artwork. And then Relayer, another album where there's only 3 tracks on here, and so it takes some time, at least for me, it took me some time to get into the first track, The Gates of Delirium. I mean, it's a great song, but it's just something where, you know, I had to listen to it a couple times before the melodies and, you know, some of the other sound textures drew me in, and, you know, actually I was able to, you know, kind of appreciate it. But love the artwork, but I wouldn't say it's, I don't know that it's even in my top 5 Yes albums. Not that I don't like it, but there's just so many other albums by Yes that I appreciate more. And the next album, and I should say, should point out that Rick Wakeman left. He was not on the Relayer album, and then he did come back for Going for the One. Unfortunately, they did not use Roger Dean's artwork on this cover. This is a Hypnosis cover. I think it's a mistake. I think Roger Dean and Yes are so intertwined in terms of, you know, you see a Yes album, you expect to see the Roger Dean artwork, and then instead you get this, which is just, I don't know. I think it would have been much better if Roger Dean, or they had let Roger Dean come up with the cover. I know they used his Yes logo here, but other than that, I'm just not a fan of this album packaging. The album itself is fine enough. Going for the One, it starts out almost like a rock, like a boogie rock track, and you put the CD in, you listen, you're like, is this Yes? What? And then it kind of kicks in, and then you realize, okay, yeah, it's Yes. Parallels is great, and I think Wondrous Stories is pretty fantastic as well. And then the second album in a row, they used Hypnosis. This is Tormato. And the story behind this cover, apparently, is that this album was originally going to be called Yes Tor, T-O-R. And Hypnosis, Storm Thorgerson, or however you pronounce his name, he had come up with an album cover of this gentleman with the divining sticks. And Rick Wakeman had a tomato, and he thought, you know, I hate that album cover, and so he threw a tomato at it. And apparently they decided to keep it and leave it as it is, and that kind of became the theme of the artwork, and they changed the name of the album to Tormato, and the rest, as they say, is history. I like this. It's back to shorter songs. You know, there's quite a few songs on here. Don't Kill the Whale is great. Future Times is cool, but it's just, you know, Yes, kind of updating their sound. It was the last album for a while that would feature the classic Yes lineup. John Anderson would leave after this album. Rick Wakeman would leave. And strangely enough, you would think that would be a recipe for disaster when John Anderson leaves, and both, you know, Rick Wakeman also. But they managed to pull together actually one of their harder rocking albums, and it's pretty fantastic. And as I understand it, John Anderson and Rick Wakeman both wanted to go in kind of a more proggy, not so much a hard-edged kind of a direction. And Chris Squire and the other members of the band wanted to do a harder rocking album, and at the end of the day, they won out. And so John Anderson and Rick Wakeman, rather than compromise, decided to bail. But Drama's a fantastic album. You know, it's got the lead singer of the Buggles, which I think would raise some eyebrows even now. But, you know, nonetheless, Tempest Fugit, I think, is probably the most well-known song on this album. But it really has some great tracks. And don't be scared away by the fact that it's not John Anderson. And then a Yes compilation. I think besides Yesterday's, this is the first sort of greatest hits Yes album. This is, again, the remastered series. And pretty much all Yes's, for the most part. I mean, if you could only do a one-disc compilation of Yes's best stuff, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better, you know, track listing than this. And then, of course, the Yes 90210 or whatever, 90125, Beverly Hills 90125. So this is the original CD release. This was the album that spawned kind of the updated Yes, Owner of a Lonely Heart, Leave It, and It Can Happen were the big hits off of this. Then Big Generator. Do I have it upside down? Okay, Big Generator here, which was the second version of the kind of more modern, poppier Yes, if you want to call it. And you know, this is okay. It's not a bad album. It's definitely not my favorite one. Love Will Find a Way was the big hit off of here, but you know, the other stuff. If you liked 90125, 91820, 9 whatever it is, then chances are you will enjoy this one also. Kind of almost reminded me, Duran Duran had an album, it was called Big Thing, and almost the album artwork was the same concept where you had big in big letters and then thing in smaller letters, but this was released a few years before that one. So anyway, just a random thought. This was Union, where they got the two camps of Yes back together, even though they weren't really in harmony, and I don't think they all played together on any particular track, but they begrudgingly got together and put out this album Union, which, you know, I enjoy a lot. It's kind of back to their progressive rock roots, but I know the band isn't always happy with it. I think Rick Wakeman said he liked to call it Onion because he shed so many tears over the finished product and how unhappy he was with it. But I don't know, Rick Wakeman kind of strikes me as a malcontent a little bit. No knock against him, he's a great keyboard player, but if you know anything about the history of Yes, it seems like he's never happy and always coming and going and making demands and things like that, but I'll leave that for another video. This is Keys to Ascension, which is part live tracks and part studio tracks. Just a fantastic collection. There's a companion piece, which is Keys to the Studio, or Keys to Ascension 2, and then there's Key Studio, which are just the studio tracks. Again, Rick Wakeman was not happy that they didn't just do a strictly studio album and then do the live stuff separate, so he left again after this project, predictably, but I've not been able to find part 2 of this, but do enjoy this CD a lot. Open Your Eyes. I gotta look at the CD before I open my mouth. And this album I've seen on a lot of, like, ranked very low in terms of Yes's studio albums. I don't think it's awful. There's certain stuff on here I like, but it's certainly not up to the quality standards of Yes's previous work, but I see people trash this album all the time. I don't think it's that bad, to tell you the truth, but if you like Yes, I think you'll find enough rewarding stuff on here. And then Yes with a symphony orchestra, I believe it is, for Magnification. I don't listen to this a whole lot. I just kind of have it in my collection because I'm a completist, but to be honest with you, if I'm going to play a Yes album, it's not going to be this one, that's for sure. And then the last one that I have is Yes, The Ladder, and this was, I believe, released in the late 90s or early 2000s. There's some, it says it's an enhanced compact disc, and there's some, you know, digital material on here, a Homeworld PC game, which I'm never going to play. There's a screensaver and a Yes interview on here if you're interested. I like this album. You know, it's Yes still in there, you know, still sounding like Yes. So I do enjoy it. But, you know, again, I'm kind of a purist. I like the 70s Yes, a little bit of the 80s Yes. Kind of, you know, going forward. I just got so much music to listen to. And if I'm in a mood, I might pick up one of their later CDs and put it on. But, you know, nonetheless, I said this was going to be a short video, and unfortunately it's not. But I did want to show my collection. Appreciate your comments. Thanks for watching, and love to hear what your favorite Yes stuff is. All right, thanks.